All right, and we're live. Welcome, everybody, to the TechNest Podcast. I'm Nate Smoyer, your host of this show, and today we got a solo edition. It is just me, and I'm pretty excited to try and do this here. This will be totally different. You know, I've got a few busy weeks ahead of me. I know it's that time of year where it's really difficult to get people on the show, and try not to, bother people's schedules a whole lot. So I thought I'd do something a little bit different. For those of you who are raving fans, we've got a few of them out there. I've done some updates in the past, and I thought it was time to do another one. So here's what we're going to do. If you haven't listened to the show first, this is the Real Estate and Tech Show. We feature leaders and innovators in real estate and technology to find out what they're doing to transform the way we buy, sell, and invest in real estate. Now, I've done a lot of due diligence this last year, and I continue to look and discover and dig and meet and network to find who are the leaders in real estate and Proptech and even in adjacent industries that are affecting real estate in big ways and leveraging technology to do that. And so this podcast is really all about featuring those people. It's not about, hey, who's raising the most money. It's not about who's the biggest company or who has the highest market cap. Those aren't the things I'm really interested in. I'm really interested in the ideas. Who's really pushing forward? And I would say, we've had a lot of great guests on the show. And, I think that that's what we're going to talk about a little bit here is that some of the guests we had on the show, I'm pretty pumped about like where they've gotten to and where they've been. I think that we'll see. So I'm actually recording this live, like I'm doing a live Facebook stream, and I've never done this before. So I'm going to try and see if I can get a few people to join in live. This is going to be totally different. And this is kind of part of what I'm thinking through for 2020. Now, before you tune out and think that this is going to be a rant and ramble, I've got quite a few things I want to go over here. I just want to get this out here real quick. So podcasting live. There we go. Cool. So let's jump right into it here. I want to talk about some updates on companies we've had on the show. So I've done, just over 60 episodes. The majority have been interviews. A few of them we've had, a 2-on-1s interview. And almost all of them have been founders, a handful of executives, a few investors, and other positions have been on the show. And I'm constantly getting feedback. And when I say constantly, I mean on a very regular basis, I get, different emails and messages about people who they listen to the show and they use it for research. My favorite is when I get messages from private equity analysts who say they're using my show to inform their, investors, what private companies are, making moves and how they're moving in the market and what's really going on. That's the kind of stuff that kind of gets me excited that I'm hearing, people are really enjoying the show, but also getting a lot of value from it. And so from that, there's a handful of companies that I think it's time to give an update on what they're doing. But first I want to bring up a quote, or not really a quote, but an idea I recently read. Ben Horowitz of Andreessen Horowitz recently wrote a book. It's called You Are What You Do. And I wish I would have written down the quote. But basically what he was saying was that sometimes progressive ideas really look like bad ideas, and good ideas often look, and feel like safe ideas. And if you're working and you're progressing forward, and in the context he was using this was in corporate culture, in company culture. But I think it still applies here, right? When you're trying to reimagine how we do something, especially if we've been doing it the same way for a very long time, and that's real estate all the way through and through. I mean, it's all been paper, pencil. It's all been by fax. You used to have to go into a building and ask for the book, And right now, there's all kinds of discussions about pocket listings and should they be a thing, and it doesn't matter if they should be a thing or not. They're going to be a thing. Zillow's looking at taking away the Make Me Move, which I just recently learned about this week. I think it has something to do with they don't want agents leveraging Make Me Move as a lead gen tool. That's just my opinion on it. You got fragmentation already that exists between MLSs. It's extremely difficult to get consistency of inputs and data. And so the companies that are making the moves and challenging the way we're doing that, I think are doing some amazing things. So let's get down a list of a handful of companies that we've had on the show. And since we've had them on the show, what the update has been with those companies. So the first one I want to talk about is Gabby AI. Gabby AI was Roberto Marino is the founder of that, and actually getting a chance to interview him. I can't remember how we got connected, but he was from Toronto, up there in Canada, and it hadn't even made it to US, barely made it out of private beta. That we were able to talk with him. And since our time talking with him, just late last year, I believe it was, he was acquired, maybe earlier this year, was acquired by Ben Kinney Company. Now, of course, if you've listened to the show at any length of time, even one episode, you've probably heard me talk about Ben Kinney because I talk about him in almost every single episode. It's true. Even this one now, again. I used to sell real estate for Ben Kinney in the Bellingham office. I consider Ben to be one of the most influential people in my career. And, so seeing the Ben Kinney Company, a real estate brokerage who also invests in technology, they've built their own platform called Brivity. They've got a texting platform called Quickly. They own Active Rain. Ben's very forward thinking in a lot of what he sees as the potential. My interpretation of what he's doing is he wants to help agents do a better job in serving their customers. And a way to do that is to offload a lot of the monotonous and tedious work behind the scenes so that they can focus on the customers. And by doing that, you can actually produce a higher volume of deals, which gives you a greater edge over your competition and ultimately makes you the only choice to go to. And his teams are across the country. One of his teams in Austin, Texas, led by Adelina Roeder, is the number one team for Keller Williams there. And I believe he's the number one Keller Williams agent. So obviously, an acquisition like that is a great move. So good on you guys, Gabby. Next, I want to go talk about Remarkably. So Remarkably.io is the company. And I'll just read you this straight from their website so I don't get it wrong. Improve leasing revenue and asset value with portfolio performance and software. Now, I got to go back a few to see where they were on the show. But there we go. Episode 44, Erna Malarkey and Anna Lee Deringer. And they're out of Seattle. I actually met Anna Lee at a CRETech event last year in New York City. Shout out to Michael Beckerman and the CRETech team. Thank you so much. You guys provide a ton of connections for me. And getting to hear what Anna Lee was doing, and I was like, oh my goodness, I got to get you connected with some people. And I had talked to her right before that. I mean, basically, like, I don't even know that they were officially a company when I was talking to her. Like, they were just forming it. Well, since then, Remarkably has gone on to raise $4.1 million. And they are killing it. They've made several big, significant key hires this year. I've met their CTO, really smart gentleman. I believe they brought on a product manager this year. They got success managers, and really excited for Remarkably. Erna is a boss of a CEO, and both of them know really how to pull together. I mean, this isn't like saying anything about their product, I suppose, but they know how to do an after party. When they did it in LA after a CRETech event as well was amazing. But it's actually, maybe it does speak to their product because they know how to connect with their people. They know how to connect on a deeper level. And when you talk with them about what they're doing for owners and operators of large multifamily assets, they're helping those investors and those owners and those operators truly understand their buildings, the potentials of those buildings. And so I'm really jazzed, really pumped for them, excited for them. I think they're going to go a really long way. Hey, I want to just thank everybody, Krishna, Tracy, Christian, Jazz. Hey, thanks guys for jumping in. Any comments, go ahead and leave them below. So anyway, we'll keep on moving here. So one company I'm pumped about, and I think you guys should be following, and I'm especially, like, I feel like I was early on this one, not as early as I wanted to be. But I wish I would have had some money in on this one because they're killing it, knocking out the park. Back in January, episode 29, we had Pat Kinsell, founder and CEO of a company called Notarize. And if you haven't heard of Notarize, you got to get out from underneath the rock because everything's about to change. So let me just paint a scenario for you real quick, and you'll hear why this is such a big deal. So first off, Notarize, since we've had them on the show, has gone on to raise an additional $37 million. So I'm not the only one who sees huge potential here. They're 24/7 digital notary. And earlier this year, I went through a HELOC or extended or got a HELOC. I don't know how you say it. Extended, secured a HELOC. on a mixed-use property that I have. And, in order to sign the final documents, I had to actually schedule to meet a notary at the coffee shop and go through this. Well, the long story short, it took 4 weeks. I was ready to close. It took 4 weeks because of my travel schedule at the time, because of the notary's ability to actually meet with me. When we met the first time, the notary who showed up was late, unprepared, hadn't sent me preview documents prior, so I couldn't review, and I had to review on the spot. There was multiple errors, and because of the errors, we had to actually do the signing a second time. And so, you just got to think through, like, scenarios like that happen all the time. Well, if investing from a distance is going to continue to be a thing, or if pressure to be fast in closing the deal is going to continue to be a thing, you can't be doing mobile notary. And this is my second time using a mobile notary. And while it worked out okay the first time, I'm still not very excited about it. Meeting in a coffee shop, sitting there with a giant stack of legal papers, and I'm just handing them to a person. I have no idea where they're going. So Notarize, excited for them. They recently announced a partnership with Dropbox. And who was the other partnership? They just announced it. Was it Ellie Mae? Oh yeah. So Ellie Mae is the new partnership they just announced. They've got a huge conference coming up in Miami, Florida called Rewired. So excited for Pat and the team over at Notarize. They know I'm a fan. I basically tweeted them almost every week. So, hey, if you want me to tweet at you every week, all I got to do is get you on my radar, and that'll probably happen. I like to support the companies that I see that are doing big things. So let's keep it rolling here. I realize that, by the way, as I'm going through this, the people who are watching live, you're just looking at my screen here that just shows my podcast, but I guess I'm in the upper corner. I'll bring some more stuff into the picture here as I talk here. Here, I know what we'll do. We'll pull up Crunchbase pages as we're going through each page. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. One company that also was very impressive to me from the start, and excited for them as I continue seeing them progress and get and just expand really at a rapid rate, is a company called Reonomy. Now, Reonomy is known. They are an AI-powered data platform for commercial real estate industry. That's straight off the Crunchbase here. The total amount they've raised is $129.5 million. So when you start thinking about like how much confidence has to go into a business like that, this is a lot of confidence. Now, that was their Series D. This is the most recent for $60 million. So since we had them on the show, 106 out of that 127 has been raised. They've gone through multiple rounds. So basically, it was what they call a venture series, and then they did a Series C, and then a Series D. Now, I wish I could explain what a venture series honestly means. I'm not all that well versed in all the fundraising terms myself, so let me just admit a little bit of ignorance there. But they did there was a seed, Series A, Series B, debt financing, venture, Series C, Series D, and they are off to the races. Now, Sam Viskovich, who is the head of marketing over there, that's who I had on the podcast. And that guy's amazing, by the way. First off, super, super smart. And talked to me about both the primary cases, which is, people investing in real estate, but also edge cases like people, chasing storms and things like that. Trying to figure out like if a storm hits an area or something like that. But anyway, you got to listen to that episode. Let's see what that was pretty far back on the podcast as well. I believe might have been season 2 or season 3. Let's see, Reonomy, and season 3, episode 28. Sam Viskovich, the VP of Marketing at Reonomy. I highly recommend go back and listen to that episode because there was a lot of things. It wasn't just about their product or company. There was a lot of lessons I think that anybody can take away from that episode. All right, now we got to get to one that, of course, I'm going to be biased about. Company is called Avail. And if you haven't heard, this is actually where I work. I'm director of marketing at a company called Avail. We're based here in Chicago. And I got to just tell this story real quick. The way it goes is Avail reached out to me earlier this year to let me know, hey, they'd passed 100,000 landlords on the platform. And I thought that was cool. I was doing a lot of videos on LinkedIn. And so I did a video and booked Ryan Kuhn, one of the co-founders and CEO for the podcast. So you can also go back and listen to that episode. That was earlier this year, episode 35 with Ryan Kuhn. And that's really what kicked off a relationship. And so with my marketing agency called Real Team Panda, I started leading the advertising efforts for Avail. And what we discovered really fast was this was a perfect scenario. I had the skill sets, and Avail had both the product, the people, and the opportunity that I wanted to be a part of full time. So we upped and moved out of Washington, north of Seattle, Bellingham, Washington, and moved to Chicago. So now here I am in the blistering cold winter weather. But since having Avail on the show, they raised $2.5 million. It was very shortly after we had them on the show that they announced that round. Now I work directly with our COO, Lawrence Janklow, as we're pressing forward. We just brought on a new product manager, a very key hire for us, big deal. And I can tell you right now, I'm not just saying this because I'm biased. If you're not watching what we're doing in the rental space, we're really looking at this in a very different way than everybody else. And there's a lot of numbers thrown around in this space, I believe. But where we're at and what we're doing is next level. And I wouldn't have moved across country and left behind my agency if I didn't firmly believe that. And so anyway, avail.co is the company. Go back, episode 35, listen to that interview with Ryan. We're going to actually have Lawrence on the podcast later this year, and we'll cover more than Avail. We'll probably talk more about like operations, culture, bootstrap, and startups, because I have never worked with people as smart, as gritty, determined, and skilled as both Ryan and Lawrence. And I can honestly say that. It totally blows me away every time I get a chance that I get to work with them on a daily basis, because it feels like I should be paying them almost sometimes. But don't tell them that. That's sometimes how I feel about it. But anyway, so that's Avail. That's where I'm at. And again, they raised a $2.5 million. All right, we'll go over one more company we've had on the show, talk about where they're at and what they're doing. And I'm a fan of these guys. Most of the companies I've had on the show, I'm a fan of. I don't have to like your show or your product for you to be on the show, by the way, or agree with it. So, if you're listening to this thinking like, man, Nate doesn't follow me, doesn't talk about my stuff, nothing like that, that's okay. We can still have you on the show, and I don't even do a debate. I just want to hear what you're doing and how you're challenging the status quo. Okay. All right. So next one here we got is called Obligo. Obligo, very simply, makes it easy for tenants to move in without putting up a deposit. And so, think about it this way. Like, if you're renting an apartment in a center city, take New York City, for instance, having a $2,500 deposit is not crazy to think about. Well, you also got to have the first month's rent. So you got $5,000 you got to park. Well, you're paying your first month's rent, but you got to park $2,500. That's a lot of money just to sit and not do anything with. And while, maybe the people in New York City are making enough money, let's go to the edge cases, right? Let's go to like a smaller city, say like Nashville or Chattanooga or Boise, right? Even for people parking $1,500 on their deposit is a lot of money to park. And so on a residential unit that I have, it's $2,100 a month for my tenants. Now, I typically rent to people who share, so it's divided by 4, makes it nice and much easier for people, but still $2,100 is a lot of money. So Obligo makes it easy for people to move in without having to put up a deposit. And it goes further. So you think that it's just they don't have to put up a deposit, but you're actually saving the landlord the process of having to issue back the deposit, which is one of the top complaints you hear from tenants all the time. They're saying like, hey, give me my deposit back. Now there's some different models of this type of product in the space right now. Rhino is another company. We haven't had Rhino on the podcast. Would love to have him on the podcast though, by the way. Let me pull them up real quick. Rhino, by the way, Obligo's raised an additional $5 million and secured a $2 million line of credit. or debt capital. And Rhino has a little bit outpacing them on the fundraising. They had only raised 1.9 up until this past third quarter, and then they had a huge, like a massive raise, 21 million that they pulled in from Kairos and Lakestar in October this year, which is tremendous. But yeah, and so Rhino works it from an insurance type model, whereas Obligo works it on a credit authorization model, and they're very different. One of them is, it's just like you'd file an insurance claim. The other one is I authorize you to bill me and credit me. I believe both of them enable the tenant to make payments or payment installments if there is a claim against them for damage, so that you're not hit with a $1,000 bill, but you're rather hit with a $333 bill, and you got 3 months to pay it off. I know that's part of Obligo's offer, but haven't really gone into the details with Rhino and on their service and exactly how it works. But yeah, so that's one of the companies that, by the way, if we're going to go over my wish list here in a little bit, but if you got a strong connection over at Rhino and you want to help get them on the show so we can talk through in detail what they're doing, I'd love to have them on the show. All right, so I'm going to end it right there. Those are the companies that I wanted to bring up and update you on. By the way, if you want to listen to my interview with Omri from Obligo, he was episode 36. Interviewed him back in March. Now, look, I'm not trying to say if you come on the show, you're going to go on to raise a ton of money. What I am saying, though, is we've had a handful of guests who've come on the show and gone on to raise quite a bit more. I did the math, over $200 million cumulatively between the startups we've had on the show in the last 18 months. That's what they've gone on to raise, including one exit. So I think that's pretty good. I'm okay with that. I'm not a investor today. Maybe that'll change one day. But I'd say if you're a betting man, you might get the inside scoop when you follow my show. Okay, so we're going to keep it moving here. I want to feature one of my favorite websites that I use for staying up on Proptech. Now, you've already seen me showing off Crunchbase, and I've got a really cool tool. For those of you who are watching, you can see this. I've built out quite an extensive list of real estate tech companies on Crunchbase that enables me to stay up to beat on all the latest in news and what's happenings and all that. And I've got the Crunchbase Pro, so it comes with some more features and visibility. But aside from that, I use Geek Estate. Now, Geek Estate, I believe it's geekestate.org. I never have to type it in, right? .com. There we go. Okay, that was smooth. Yeah, geekestate.com. Now, there's a handful of things. There's a free blog section, but the value is in the membership. It's like $90 or something like that, $100 a quarter, so every 3 months. And what you get, I'm showing a view of it right now for those watching. What you get is a little bit on the inside. You get to be in a network where you're not getting pummeled by ads. It's crazy to say that the value prop, coming from an ad guy especially, is not getting pummeled by ads. But hear me out on this. The content is all around, it's described as a mastermind for real estate tech innovators. So only other CEOs, founders, leaders, innovators in real estate are the ones who join Geek Estate. It's not for the average person who just wants to peruse properties. This is for the people who want to take things to the next level, who want to see what the big shifts are and happen in the industries around them. Maybe you don't want to contribute, maybe you do want to contribute, but you want to cut through the noise. And Geek Estate does that, I believe, better than anybody. Drew Myers is the guy behind this. He was early over at Zillow. For those watching, you can see there's several people online right now, right in here. One of the things I wanted to pull up was the events. It's a cool feature, even though Geek Estate is not trying to be necessarily an event company. They do events at cities and different other conferences across the country. So if you're looking at connecting with other PropTech innovators, real estate tech innovators, then Geek Estate is the network that I highly recommend. Tell Drew I sent you. If you don't qualify, I'm sorry. I know there's a little bit of screening criteria, so not everybody qualifies. But if you wanted to join, you could check it out. Geeky State is a cool network. Drew's been really good at helping me connect with other leaders in the space, especially with finding a few to come on the podcast. Now, I would exercise one bit of caution. Don't go to Geek Estate with the idea that you're just gonna network and connect and just build your business and sales from the people who are there. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people like the network, is they don't have to deal with that. So if you're also looking to avoid the typical LinkedIn, people chasing after you and sending you DMs about, can I get 30 minutes on your calendar on Tuesday or Thursday, which is better morning or evening, then Geek Estate is for you. And I think you should check it out. That was an unpaid plug. I don't get paid on that, by the way. So, all right. Last one here is that last one. I've got a few sections, but I'm going to wrap it up. I don't want this to be too long for you guys. Okay, so I want to talk through a little bit of a wish list of guests I'd like to have on the show. By the way, technest.io, if you haven't been to the website, or you go to any podcast store to find the podcast. Number one on the guest wish list for 2020, Robert Reffkin, founder and CEO of Compass. I'm fascinated by Compass. They're growing at the speed of a tech company in a extremely high-touch service-based industry. And I don't see why not. So I would love to talk with Robert. I'd love to hear about what their philosophy is, how they maintain culture through a company like this. I mean, especially because the agents are not employees, so there's always a little bit of a separation there. And so if you're close to Robert, I have reached out. I haven't secured it yet, but let them know, hey, TechNest is legit. You're going to want to be on it. For those who may not follow all the hype, that you may or may not know that Compass is backed by SoftBank. Of course, you all hear about them, about WeWork. They have raised $1.6 billion with a B, that is billion dollars, in building their tech, buying other brokerages, buying market share, and their advertising. I will say I love the branding. I think of Compass and I think of luxury property immediately. They go right together. It's very rare do I see one of their listings break that, like that thinking there. I have seen a few, but they seem pretty tight on that. So anyway, Robert Reffkin is on the wish list. If you know him, you're close to him, give us a shout out. Let's make that happen for 2020. Next up on the list, company I'm fascinated by, because I'm actually fascinated by all storage, is Clutter. Clutter is a tech-enabled storage company that lets clients store extra stuff without actually leaving their house. Now, Clutter has actually been on a little bit of buying spree. I saw that they bought some storage units themselves. I'm really interested in the storage business as well, but I'm interested in smart storage. And I'm really, this gets my attention because I don't think Americans are going to give up their stuff anytime soon. They want to keep their stuff, even if they downsize, they want to keep their stuff, and they want a good place to put it. Or you need a temporary place to put it because you're like me and you move across the country every year. I don't recommend that, by the way. It makes things difficult when you got to move across the country once a year. I'm not planning on moving again for a little while yet. We actually really like Chicago. So Clutter has really been coming up. They've been raising a lot of money, also backed by SoftBank. Got their start back 2014 and have done quite a few rounds since then. Most recent round for $200 million, bringing them to a total raised of $296 million. And they send people out to your house to get your stuff all stored, packed away. And so, just imagine you move in, you bring in all the boxes, and then it doesn't fit, right? You got to get rid of stuff. Or you're getting ready to move out, and you box everything up, and you put everything in the garage you want to put in storage, and then someone shows up, says, cool, we'll pack that up and take it away. And that's done. That is easy right there. I like the idea. So Ari Mir, who is the co-founder and CEO, if you know him, and if you're close to the company, hey, reach out for me. Let them know, hey, this is the year for the TechNest podcast. Let's talk Clutter. Okay. Next up, we're going to go to Pete Flint. So Pete Flint, managing partner at NFX. But also, you probably know him as the founder and former CEO of Trulia. He built them from the ground up to acquisition by Zillow. And NFX, there's a handful of reasons they stand out. First, I mean, obviously Pete Flint. But number two is if you read the content they publish, they've got to be one of the very few venture funds that get content marketing. Like, I mean, they get it. It's so good. They've got video content, they've got downloads and PDFs and reports and guides and tutorials, and it's actually good stuff. They talk a lot about network effects, and it's part of what they're looking into, like how they invest. They've made a number of big investments in recent history. Ribbon being one of them. I didn't put them on the wish list, but I should have. That's a Proptech company there. They've got a few others in here. I'm not going to go in detail of their investments. Let me see if it says 107 number of lead investments, 142 total investments as reported on Crunchbase here. And you can see if you're watching the different categories that they've invested into over the years. Total funds raised $425 million. That's their own fund. So their first fund they raised in late 2017 for 150, and the second one was earlier this year, 275 million. NFX is going to continue to be a player and someone to recognize. It doesn't mean that they're only going to be Proptech, and clearly they're not making that play as their only play. But Pete Flint understands the business. He knows it. He gets it. I've listened to a few podcasts with him, so I'd love to have him on the show. If you know Pete, let him know. Let's make this happen. All right, moving on to one that I don't know if this counts as Proptech. I'm going to say that. I could be proven wrong. I'm happy to be proven wrong on this. I've met Brian Ma, the CEO of a company called Divvy. Now, if you're from Chicago, not Divvy Bikes. Divvy bikes are the ones it's something like, I just saw a report. It's like 1 out of 5 Divvy bikes has been stolen, which it makes me wonder, like, hey, these bike things, is it really going to work out? These scooters really going to work out? I don't know. But anyway, Divvy is making it a little bit easier for people to acquire homes, to become homeowners. They do it through rent-to-own models. And, they're focused on those second-tier cities. Your Cleveland, I believe Chattanooga was on that list, Atlanta, maybe Memphis was on the list when I first looked them up. They've done quite a bit of raising. They've got quite a lot of debt financing. Obviously, they're buying homes and leasing them back, so there's quite a bit that you have. It's a very capital-intensive business. They did $120 million in debt financing end of October of last year. This year, they raised another round of $43 million, but was not a debt round to my knowledge. And so I like Divvy because I think that what they're doing is they're making it easier for people to become homeowners. Now, I don't personally think that your personal home is always the best investment. You'll hear that said a lot. I don't think it is. I tend to side with Gary Vaynerchuk on this. Hate me if you want, come at me, bro. But it is what it is. And I like what Divvy is doing in this space. I think it's great. When people own their home, especially if they've never had stability, it is a game changer for their life. And so I commend them. So let's make Divvy happen 2020. Okay, here's a company that I see everywhere. And maybe it's because I'm looking, but I see them everywhere. I'm fascinated by their marketing. I'm fascinated by their press game. And I say press game strong, real strong. And I would love to talk to almost anybody over there, but especially, we'll talk with the CEO, ideally. I have had no discussions with anyone over at VTS, also known as View the Space. And Nicholas Ramito, I believe that's how you say his last name, or Ramito, is the founder and CEO of VTS. They've raised $187 million to date, started back in 2012. And they're described as empowering landlords and brokers to better attract, convert, and retain valuable assets and tenants. They do the whole 9 yards: lease management, asset management, everything you would need to manage a large portfolio of commercial and multifamily property. They handle that. Now, I've never used their product. I've never gone into the details of it. But like I said, seeing the marketing, seeing them everywhere, the constant move and success, I believe they hit unicorn status. Let's see here. Let's see if, yep. So they hit unicorn status, which means they were given the coveted $1 billion valuation earlier this year. Came right around the time they raised their money back in the second quarter. Series D, $90 million is what they raised. Brookfield Asset Management was the lead investor on that. I think they'd be really interesting to talk to. I'm very fascinated by the players that are in the large commercial family space. There's a ton of different ways you can slice and dice that market. It's really also interesting that you could get, 3 customers with an enterprise level product and have almost immediate scale, depending on who those 3 customers are. And that's one of the things that's fascinating. That I don't think it sounds easy. That's by no means easy to accomplish, but that's a very fast way to build out some scale. So anyway, let's get VTS on the show 2020. If you got a connection, reach out. Let's make that happen. Okay. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping items, and we're going to come in and start wrapping up the show. First off, technest.io is the domain. If you go to the website, you'll see on the top, get on the insider's email list, and it'll take you to our email list. If you're not on the email list, here's what I can promise you that you will get on the email list. You will get alerts of new episodes, and you may get invitations to be included in articles on other websites. So for instance, this week, an article is going to go live with Propmoto. A lot of our former guests will be quoted in that article in getting their take on, hey, what should founders and new Proptech startup leaders or investors know about raising money, right? And so if you want some of those PR opportunities, there's going to be more of those in 2020. There may be some that include working with Avail. And so you're going to want to be on that email list. It gets no advertisements. There's no promotions. You will not get spammed. I don't sell anybody's list. I just use a tiny letter email serve, so I don't even have it in MailChimp or anything else. There's no fanciness to it. It's just get on the insiders list. It's the right thing to do, and I appreciate it. I would love to get your feedback and input. What changes would you like to the show? I can bring on different types of guests, more types of one type of guest versus the other. Oh, shoot. I totally forgot this. I missed one of the guests that I really want on the show. Okay, I got to hit on this one, and then I'm going to keep moving. Hello, Alfred. They are, they've got 2 founders, Jessica Beck and Marcella Sapone. They've raised $52.5 million. And they are, listen to this, with more than 1 million home visits to more than 40,000 households in residential buildings across 8 cities. They're building the future of urban living. The Hello Alfred is like next level amenity, hospitality. Anyway, I don't know them. I've never had any discussion with them, but I can tell you when we moved to Chicago, the amenities, hospitality, everything that was like coming into like our building was a big, big deal. And I see this growing and becoming even more important. So if you've got an intro to Hello Alfred, please let's talk to them. Also, their branding is on point. So love it. All right, wrapping up here. So talking about changes to the show format, types of questions you want to hear, information you want me to gather. What could I do that would help your investment strategy, research strategy? What's companies that you want to know more details about? Shoot me an email. Just use my Avail email, nate@avail.co. That's nate@avail.co. Because that's easy for me to just manage one inbox. I still have my Real Team Panda and my Gmail and like 4 other emails if you find them out there. They're on the internet. But shoot me an email, nate@avail.co, so that I can we can connect and talk through what your suggestions are. I'm an open book. This show, it's my show, but it's only valuable if the community finds it valuable. And I want to make sure that, other people are finding this valuable. So And the last thing is, if you run any events, so you do any conferences or live events, I'm interested to the idea. I haven't done this before, except for at Housing Wire conference. Housing Wire's initial conference. Shout out to Clayton. Appreciate that. But I would love to podcast at your event. We could set up a little podcast booth or station, set it up and do some intros and collaboration. Again, shoot me an email, nate@avail.co. I'm open to opportunities, domestic and abroad. Let's have a conversation about what that would look like and how we could work together. Proptech is my industry. It's where where I'm staying put and want to continue giving back to this industry. And so, kind of what I was talking through in the beginning of the show, we get a lot of people that are new, that are on the cutting edge, and get them featured before they blow up. And I want to continue telling those stories. I'm interested in the ones that have raised a ton of money, just like the ones I just went through on my wish list. But I also want to talk to the ones that are just getting by. They just raised a family and friends at $200,000, and they're learning the code and all that. That was Avail, by the way. Another plug for Ryan and Lawrence. Let's make that happen. Let's talk about your event and how we can do some live podcasting. Last but not least, head to the podcast store. Open up your podcast app, type in TechNest, and please leave me a 5-star review. Rating and a review. Both help the podcast get further traction, get in front of other people, and encourages me. That's my feedback loop. Tell me I'm doing a good job, or at least tell me I'm not doing a terrible job. Just say, hey, Nate, the podcast is okay. It's not the worst I've listened to. Please, someone leave that exact review. I'll send you a Starbucks gift card or something. Anyway, yeah, that's it. Find me on social media at Nate Smoyer, at TechNest Podcast, all one word, everywhere social media is available. I appreciate for the people who tuned in to the live stream. I never do live streams, so that was kind of fun. Never know what to expect when you do them like this, but it's a lot of good. It's a good time for me, at least. I'm gonna wrap up here. I've got a huge week ahead of me. We've got some investor meetings. We're heading to New York City. I wish I could tell you why, but you'll have to wait to find out. And anyway, that's all that. Appreciate everyone and your feedback. And tune in next week for a new episode of TechNest Podcast. See you later. All right.